And this is it. This is the new iPhone SE 2020. It's the new $400 iPhone, one of the hottest phones of this year, and honestly, one of the most important phones in a long time, especially for Apple. So yes, I've been using this phone as my daily iPhone for almost about a week now. In fact, I started using it right after I shot that video about my thoughts on the iPhone SE. No, like literally, right after. So, fast forward to now, and this phone's about to start shipping. It's going to start arriving in the real world. There really now is a brand new iPhone people are going to pay $400 for. So reviewing this phone should be pretty easy because we've already seen this before. Basically, I've already reviewed the iPhone 8. I'll link it below the like button if you want to watch it again. But there are some new things, a couple little tweaks in here. So here's a refresher. This iPhone SE has the body of an iPhone 8, a new camera system, and the chip from the iPhone 11, the newest A13 Bionic. So the body itself is so small, at least by today's standards. Now, today's standards happen to be pretty big. They happen to include a lot of pretty huge phones, including Apple's own huge phone. But on the other hand, it doesn't quite go all the way back to the size of the first iPhone SE, which now looking back is just absolutely tiny. I like the size of this phone though, and it's less about overall footprint size and actually more about just how thin and lightweight it is. It really is pretty noticeable. Like walking around with this as the only phone in my pocket, it's honestly pretty refreshing having a phone that's so light and maneuverable. So I know SE apparently stands for Special Edition unofficially, but I'm gonna go ahead and adjust that to Small Edition. Now the body is also IP67 water and dust resistant. It's got the glass back to give you wireless charging, and the logo is actually moved down to the middle of the phone, as you can see, to match all the newer iPhones. And then the rest you remember, speakers at the bottom paired with the earpiece, and of course, the big forehead and chin with Touch ID. Yeah, Touch ID. In a world of face masks and nose coverings though, this latest version of a standard fingerprint reader that they pretty much perfected on home button is still working great. Then there are 3 colors for the new SE, red, black, and white. And they all have black fronts, black bezels. Remember when you used to have to hack together 2 phones to get a red phone with a black front? Now even the white one's got a black front, so the black bezel is a nice little update. Naturally, I went for the product red. Side note, the materials in the box still say product red proceeds go towards AIDS relief, but on Apple's site now, that's changed to say COVID relief, so that's a good cause too. Really, besides obviously the design overall, the only part here on this older parts bin phone that frustrated me at all was the display. First of all, it doesn't double tap to wake. I didn't realize how much I did that on phones that don't have home buttons. And then second, it just doesn't get as bright as today's phones, and outdoor visibility took a bit of a hit. And it wasn't even that bad, and the resolution and pixel density or 60 Hz refresh rate didn't bother me as much because let's not forget, this is a $400 phone. But yeah, I'm just so used to screens that have gotten brighter since 2017. So, knowing what we know coming into this review for iPhone SE, we know it's old body, new chip, new camera. What we want to know for the review from actually using it is how good is the performance, how good is the battery life, and how good is the camera? Well, performance, this may come as a shocker. The A13 and extra RAM absolutely fly through iOS on a 720p display. Yeah, I know, breaking news, right? Super unexpected. Performance is fine. Honestly, Apple didn't have to put the A13 in here, but I'm glad they did because performance overhead here is insane. And I mentioned this in the impressions, but this phone is gonna have the longest life of any $400 phone, probably that I've ever seen. So performance is great. Battery life has also been good. It has a really great standby time, as most iPhones do, and the efficiency of the A13, again, with a small, not very bright 720p screen, shines through. Only thing is, it's also a tiny battery. I think it's less than 2,000 milliamp hours, just because the phone is so small and thin. So it's not the battery life champ that the 10R or the 11 might be, but I had no problems getting through the day with this guy plus wireless charging. It's good to see. And then that single camera around the back. Okay, so Apple won't tell me if it's the same camera as the 8 or the 11 or a completely new system or a hybrid of parts, but it is a single camera system and it's a pretty good one. Photos from it definitely look like familiar iPhone photos, as you can tell. When you give it enough light, it's right up there with the best, minus the fringing on close-up subjects that we've seen on some other phones because this sensor is still so small. When you get into less favorable lighting, things get a bit grainy, and when you get to dark, there is no night mode at all. I actually figured they might be able to pull off night mode with the A13 chip here, but I guess not. Either way, I'm looking at this camera as overall way above average for this price. Selfies are also pretty good. I'm sticking with it. I'm actually testing selfie cameras and phones. Again, I couldn't tell you if this is the same selfie camera as iPhone 8, but it looks about as good. And then with video, 4K 30 video from this camera is the best on any phone at this price. Easy, hands down. And that's important. People take a lot of videos of pets, of kids, of events. So this is great. You don't need 8K video or any fancy features or modes. You just need rock solid, stable, good focus, and good detail. And this one's a winner. And that is about it for this phone. I mean, honestly, it's a pretty simple formula. Take the old body, put new internals in it, sell it for cheap. But I think this strategy coming from Apple is actually more interesting than the phone itself. You know, at first glance, it may seem kind of lazy that they didn't redesign anything about this phone at all. You know, just maybe thin up the bezels a little bit or just do something to make it look more modern than the iPhone 8. But then you realize that that's exactly why this phone is so cheap. It's because they've streamlined the manufacturing of these parts for so long and for so many years that they can churn out this phone for a very low price. And redesigning any little part of it would involve new research, new tooling, new manufacturing processes, and that would have been extra cost on top. So they can make this phone for cheap. But I also think Apple may just be the only company that can pull off a budget phone like this. A phone that just nails the fundamentals and does absolutely nothing else extra. Speaker, solid, but not amazing. Camera, solid, pretty good, but no zoom. Display, solid, but not high refresh rate or OLED. Battery, solid, but not super fast charging. Like, this phone checks all the basic necessary selling points for a phone in this price range, and the selling point is it's an iPhone. You see, for others, they typically need some standout feature or something to give you a reason to buy it over the other budget phones. So whether it's the budget phone with a high refresh rate, Poco X2, or the budget phone with a stylus, we just saw that from Motorola, or the budget phone with an amazing camera, Pixel 3a. But those phones also tend to have a little bit of sacrifices in other areas. This is the budget phone that's an iPhone. And for many people, many people, that's enough. And I have no problem recommending this phone to those people. My only hesitation would be to pay attention to storage. It's $50 extra to go up from 64 gigs base storage to 128. I'd recommend, if you can spend the extra 50 to do that, then it's another 100 to double it again. But other than that, iPhone SE, small edition, is a great buy. Oh, and of course, since apparently 99% of people put a case on their phone anyway, this is one of the few phones that you can put a case on and it doesn't make it huge in your pocket. So, channel sponsor Dbrand has got you covered here, literally. And side benefit, the grip case from them also keeps those buttons feeling super clicky. So check it out, link below. So there you have it. As far as value, thanks to it having such a long life ahead of it as far as performance overhead and software updates, Apple essentially just delivered one of the best value phones of the year and in a long time. That's why it's so important. Can't be mad at that. Thanks for watching. Catch you guys very soon in the next one. Peace.